Hundreds of pagers exploding at once, an attack Hezbollah is pinning on Israel and is vowing revenge. And a Taiwanese brand whose name was found on the exploding pagers, Gold Apollo, responds. Vietnamese migrant workers once heading to Taiwan are now seeking other destinations. Plus, how worms are helping Taiwan manage its food waste problem, one snack at a time. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Chen. Hezbollah is vowing to retaliate, accusing Israel of targeting its network of pagers in a coordinated attack that's left 11 dead and nearly 3,000 injured. The group is calling it the biggest security breach in its war with Israel and has confirmed its fighters are among the dead. Rosie Greninger reports. A warning, some viewers might find these images distressing.
Unsuspecting shoppers browse through a supermarket in Lebanese capital Beirut when an explosion sends one man to the ground in pain. And this wasn't an isolated scene. Through the southern suburbs of Lebanon, chaos, as thousands are rushed to hospital, injured when handheld pagers used by Hezbollah militants detonated in their hundreds, all at the same time.
حتى الآن سجلت غرفة العمليات الطوارئ الصحية بوزارة الصحة العامة أكثر من 2800 جريح. حالة تقريبا 200 منهم هي حالة حرجة استوجبت إما إجراء عمليات جراحية أو إدخال على أقسام العناية الفائقة. وسجل كذلك سقوط عدد من الشهداء. العدد لهلا 8 شهداء.
That death toll is expected to rise. Lebanese state media reported the pager devices used by Hezbollah members to communicate with each other exploded in several of the militant group's strongholds, with civilians caught in the crossfire. Hezbollah officials say this attack is the biggest security breach they've experienced in nearly a year of conflict with Israel. Both Hezbollah and Lebanon place blame on the neighbouring country for the attack, and the militant group has vowed retaliation.
أن هذا العدو الغادر والمجرم سينال بالتأكيد قصاصه العادل على هذا العدوان الآثم من حيث يحتسب ومن حيث لا يحتسب والله على ما نقول شهيد.
Israel has not commented. It's unknown how these pages were infiltrated, but some cybersecurity analysts suggest they could have been tampered with during the manufacturing and shipping process, allowing for a small explosive device to be planted on their batteries before delivery.
It does appear that the pagers that exploded were acquired relatively recently by Hezbollah, and I would not be surprised if they were tampered with prior to their having been delivered.
Hezbollah officials say they're launching a major investigation into the attack, but it's largely disabled the group's communication channels. This is widely being seen as a major escalation that could lead to a wider war in the Middle East, after months of rising tensions. Hamas ally Hezbollah and Israel have traded daily blows since the outbreak of war in Gaza on October 7th.
An attack of this scale, this breadth, would seem to suggest that Israel was either baiting Hezbollah into forcing the issue, or into starting it itself. I mean, there is no better way to start a full-blown conflict than to take, 10-20% of the entire fighting force of Hezbollah off the battlefield and destroy the command and control and communications infrastructure.
The US has called for a diplomatic solution, adding the importance of securing a ceasefire deal in settling tensions. But as Lebanon reels from this latest attack on its soil, fear is spreading across the Middle East, anticipating Hezbollah's response and what further escalation could mean for the region. James Lin and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
A Taiwanese manufacturer's name was on the pagers that exploded in the attack on Hezbollah in Lebanon, but Gold Apollo denies that it made the devices. Louise Watt reports from the company's offices.
The Taiwanese company Gold Apollo says that the pager at the center of all of this, the model AR924 with its name on it, was not in fact one of its products. It says it was made and sold by a company in Hungary called BAC Consulting, which has a license to use the Taiwanese brand. It didn't give any more details about the company, but this is what the founder said earlier when he spoke to reporters here at the company's headquarters in New Taipei City.
这个公司，有一个代理商在欧洲的一个代理商，他跟我们做3年，3年他代理我们所有的产品。那他后来他自己有做一个护驾器，他做这一支护驾器切我们公司的厂牌。 每一台的部分有给我们一个这个 logo 的一个 brand 的费用，那基本上我们都有合约啦、合同啦那些东西，我们待会秀给你看。
Now, officials from Taiwan's economy ministry, they were here at the company earlier. They've said in a statement that they have no record of direct exports to Lebanon and that they'll be assisting the company in follow-up investigations. Police officers have been going in and out of the company for several hours, and Taipei prosecutors have said that they're investigating possible illegal activities related to national security. This all comes, of course, in relations to official and security sources in Lebanon reportedly saying that Hezbollah bought more than 3,000 pagers from Gold Apollo. Now, the company's founder, who we heard from earlier, he says that to have the company's name drawn into this is embarrassing, and he insists that the product was not made here in Taiwan. Luffy Lee, John Su and Louise Watt in New Taipei City for TaiwanPlus.
To learn more about Taiwan's suspected involvement in the pager explosions in Lebanon, our reporter Irene Lin spoke to Taiwanese defense analyst Zhang Jing.
What do you make of reports that these pagers were made in Taiwan?
The report that this device was made, the beeper was made in Taiwan, that is actually intentionally to lead all the people point to Taiwan. But Taiwan is so remote, and this is actually goes through the overseas export manufacturing process to authorize the final assembly was done in the Hungary in Europe. So in that case, the possibility for Taiwan actually getting involved into this conspiracy is almost not exist at all.
Is it possible that explosives were installed in Taiwan?
My argument is that it would take a lot of efforts if any kinds of intelligence elements would like to put any improvised explosive device in this beeper. They need to travel to Taiwan and bring all the explosive devices that come into Taiwan and intervene to the production process. If you can wait until the final product has been totally complete, then send from Europe to the local market, which means Lebanon. You intrude into the warehouse and install those improvised explosive device. Is much more reasonable.
Taiwan was among the first countries to condemn Hamas' attack on Israel when the war broke out. Did whoever was responsible for these attacks intentionally choose Taiwan as cover for something else, or is his involvement here just a coincidence?
Whether it will be the Israel or the Lebanon, there's totally irrelevant with that. It's simply say this is the bad luck. You know, you manufacture something, you authorize a company in Europe to make the final assembly process, and unfortunately to be utilized by intelligence unit, intelligence agent as a device for assassination.
That was defense analyst Zhang Jing speaking about Taiwan's role in the Lebanon pager attacks. A Chinese aircraft carrier group was spotted near Taiwan early on Wednesday. The Liaoning and other ships passed through the northeast of Taiwan and briefly breached Japan's contiguous waters near Yonaguni Island. These are waters just outside of Japan's territory. The carrier group's transit came after a U.S. Navy surveillance plane passed through the Taiwan Strait on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Taiwan's defense ministry detected 15 Chinese aircraft operating in Taiwan's air defense identification zone on Wednesday morning, 12 of which crossed the median line of the strait. Taiwan's aging society means it relies more and more on foreign labor. And as other countries like Japan and South Korea face manpower problems of their own, competition is becoming stiff in one particular labor market, Vietnam. Joyce Deng reports.
Getting trained to work overseas, these students in Hanoi are studying for a shot at a better salary and better life outside of Vietnam. Since the late 1990s, when the Southeast Asian country began exporting its labor to East Asia, Taiwan was the top destination for Vietnamese workers. It's a strong relationship that makes Vietnam Taiwan's second largest source of migrant labor, behind Indonesia. But now another competitor is trying to attract Vietnamese workers.
Trước đây thì số lượng thực tập sinh cũng như là kỹ sư và du học tại Việt Nam sang Nhật Bản thì chưa nhiều. Nhưng từ những năm 2016 trở lại đây thì số lượng thực tập sinh rồi du học và kỹ sư tại Việt Nam sang Nhật Bản rất nhiều.
Like Taiwan, Japan also faces a rapidly aging population, and Japanese human resources firms have rolled out new incentives like this technical training program to attract prospective Vietnamese workers. South Korea, another country with an aging population, has also been tapping Vietnam's labor market, increasing visa quotas for migrant workers. But for those who want to find work abroad quickly, Taiwan is still a preferred option.
因为韩国1年他们才考试一次嘛，日本的话他们就会要训练比较久，6个月，4到6个月才能去。台湾的话就比较快，1到2个月就可以入境了。
And Taiwan would like to keep migrant workers coming, particularly those from Vietnam, since they make up over 45% of the migrant manufacturing workforce and have the second largest share in the social welfare and caregiving sector. Last year, Taiwan launched its first one-stop service center for migrant workers, converting this 3-star hotel into a 500-bed training facility to help new arrivals settle in. The 3-day program only takes caregiving workers for now and teaches classes in multiple languages, including Vietnamese, on Taiwan's culture and legal system, with tips on what to do if they run into trouble. The center is also staffed with fellow workers from Vietnam who've already been living in Taiwan.
来这边可以有我们的同乡跟他们讲这个越南语，他们没有那么担心。
But Taiwan and Vietnam's partnership in labor hasn't always been smooth. In the early 2000s, Taiwan suspended working permits for Vietnamese caregivers because of a high rate of runaways. A decade since that ban was lifted, there's been a marked improvement in relations.
因为这样的一个关系所以其实两个国家合作是非常紧密。
With a serious manpower shortage looming over most of East Asia and the region's aging society, in the face of more competition from Tokyo and Seoul, Taipei is doing what it can to ensure Vietnamese workers continue to choose Taiwan. Chris Ma, Chen, and Joyce Sun for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan ends up throwing away a lot of food each year, making this one of the country's biggest issues with waste management. But one farm in eastern Taiwan is looking at a unique way of processing this waste with a bit of help from some very small friends. Chris Gorham reports.
These fly larvae may not look appetizing to humans, but they do to chickens, and they may be key to solving one of Taiwan's thorniest problems, food waste. An elementary school in Taiwan's eastern Hualien County has brought its students to this fly farm to learn all about what will eventually become black soldier flies.
黑水虻是把厨余吃掉的虫。黑水虻它很可爱，然后会吃垃圾。黑水虻是黑黑的又很小的又可爱的昆虫。
The field trip not only seeks to turn student views of these bugs from gross to cute, but also to make them aware of the bigger issues.
透过这样子的导览跟体验，刚有请他们摸一下我们的肥料嘛，那就希望说，小朋友可以把这个观念带回去给爸爸妈妈，那就厨余就是尽量爱惜惜食，减少厨余的量，有厨余的话也是要分开来。
Officials in Taiwan estimate that the country throws away about 620,000 metric tons of food waste annually. That's enough to fill Taiwan's tallest building, Taipei 101, 10,000 times. Finding a way to deal with this waste is critical, as Taiwan's garbage incinerators are already at full capacity, resulting in a growing number of trash mountains piling up around the country, waiting to be burned. But food waste can also be turned into fertilizer, and in this case, animal feed. From when it hatches through its 2-week larval stage, each worm can consume 30 times its weight in food waste. The fattened larvae not only become a high-protein meal for chickens, but also help with another waste problem: manure.
这边呢，有没有闻到很臭的味道？没有。对，这是因为黑水虻哈，那转换成很有效的菌哈，让这个菌呢，除了被鸡吃以外，剩下繁殖在这个地方哈，一样做非常大的功能，叫去溶解鸡的粪便。
Each year, Taiwan chicken farms create about 2.2 million metric tons of manure. While some of this can be used as fertilizer, it's estimated that around 70% goes unprocessed. The fly's own feces can be used as fertilizer too, providing benefits throughout the insect's entire life cycle. While these fly farms are relatively small in scale, they offer a glimpse into the many possibilities for managing the country's waste, rather than just throwing it in the bin. Eason Pan and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break, on International Equal Pay Day, how the gender pay gap is still a problem in Taiwan.
Who isn't amazed by the sudden appearance of a butterfly when they least expect it? Your lives are a long march, an adventure that crosses mountains. But before long, the butterflies we took for granted gradually disappeared. Many humans are working hard to understand you. They want to know your flight paths and find a way to coexist with you. Everything on Earth is connected one way or another, though they may appear unrelated. It's like a vast and intricate web of life. Listen. When you soar in the air, you are a living miracle.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Wednesday marks International Equal Pay Day, but a new government-led survey shows Taiwan still faces a wide gender pay gap despite rising wages. Wesley Lewis reports.
It is International Equal Pay Day, aimed at eliminating economic gender inequality. But new government figures in Taiwan reveal a persistent gap in what men and women are paid. Salaries have risen on average by 2.6% since the beginning of this year, but many women say the growth has not benefited them.
我觉得薪水越来越不好。我现在是接案，然后我现在的案子就是薪水都比前几年还要低，物价涨的速度就比那个薪水涨的速度还快，所以我其实觉得反而是越来越变得没有那么好。
A recent government survey revealed that overall wage growth this year was the highest in 4 years. The median monthly salary in Taiwan now stands at slightly over $1,160. For men, it's over $1,210 per month. But for women, that figure is less than $1,100 per month, a difference of over 9%. Some say there is a gap in earnings because many industries are split along gender lines.
比较高薪的这个科技业可能是男性的从业人员比较多，那在服务业这边比较低薪一些女性从业人员比较多，那自然这个男女的薪资就是会有一个比较明显的一个差距。
Gender equality activists say women face systemic obstacles in the workforce. One of those is the societal expectation for them to be the primary caregiver in a family. This leads many women to work in the informal economy or freelance.
因为多数的非典型的劳动它的工时是比较弹性的，但它的薪资相对的也是比较没有这么好的，所以就会看到有些女性她的经济能力上面会比男性差的原因在于我们的性别角色分化还是十分的明显。
And as gender roles persist in Taiwan, the worry is that so will the gender pay gap, despite the country's growing wages, highlighting an ongoing fight in Taiwan and across the world to achieve equal pay for equal work. Ryan Wu and Wesley Lewis for TaiwanPlus.
North Korea has test-fired several ballistic missiles, the latest in a string of weapons tests by Pyongyang. South Korea and Japan have confirmed the launch, with Tokyo saying at least one missile fell into waters off the Korean peninsula. This latest launch comes as North Korean Foreign Minister Choi Song-hee leads a delegation to St. Petersburg. Choi is expected to speak at 2 women's forums there. Russia is North Korea's biggest supporter. U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has made his first public appearance since a second assassination attempt on him.
It's a dangerous business, however, being president. And I have to say that President Biden called me yesterday. It was very nice. We had a very nice conversation. I appreciated that he called about, what happened the other day. And today, a little while ago, I got a very nice call from Kamala. No, it was very nice.
Trump attended a campaign rally in Flint, Michigan, 2 days after a gunman was discovered near his Florida golf course. At a rally, Trump supporters cheered him on, but shared concerns over the rise of political violence in the country.
Yeah, I'm concerned for everyone's safety on both sides. The country is so divided right now, and both political parties are so divisive.
A long drought in Brazil is parching the Amazon basin, dropping water levels to record lows. Aerial footage shows several tributaries completely dried up. These are important waterways used for transportation. It's the second consecutive year Brazil has suffered severe drought. The dry weather has also sparked wildfires and interfered with farming. Local residents feeling the effects of climate change are calling for action.
Que o mundo precisa de também ouvir a natureza. Não só ouvir os seres humanos, mas ouvir a natureza. O que ela está representando hoje para nós. Ela está pedindo socorro e nós não estamos nem aí para o que está acontecendo, né?
Researchers studying glaciers in Central Asia are reporting some chilling results. They are warning that glacial melt means unprecedented amounts of water collecting in the mountains that could engulf the people living below them. Reese Ayers reports.
After a 6-hour trek up into the 4-kilometer high peaks of northern Kyrgyzstan, glaciologist Galbara Omarova uses specialized tools to check the health of the glacier beneath her feet.
Реки называются абляционные реки, которые измеряют таяние ледников в этом сезоне, на сколько сантиметров ледник растаял. Но когда мы устанавливали, ледник был где-то вот здесь, да?
The Tian Shan mountain range, which stretches from western China through Central Asia, is home to thousands of ancient glaciers. But in recent years, researchers like Omarova have watched as climate change rapidly eats away at them.
Увеличивается, и последние наши измерения показывают, что ледник уменьшается в длине, в массе, в объеме, да, и мы в сентябре будем снимать GPS-съемку, проводить измерения. Но сейчас вот по нашим последним данным в каждый год ледник отступает на 16 метров назад.
Omarova says this particular glacier has retreated by almost a kilometer since the 1960s, and that it's just one of thousands affected. One report by the Eurasian Development Bank estimates that up to 30% of glaciers in the mountains of Central Asia have melted away in the last 60 years. And with 2024 expected to be the hottest year on record, the problem is growing exponentially. glacial melting impacts more than just the breathtaking natural scenery of Central Asia. The massive amounts of water they release can be deadly. Further down the mountains, scientist Sergei Yurikin explains the risks for those who live close to the glaciers.
С тем, что в верховьях этой долины ледники при отступлении образуют моренно-ледниковые комплексы. На их поверхности формируются озера, скопления воды, которые не имеют устойчивой плотины. Эти плотины прорывают, и вся вот эта масса воды устремляется вниз, в долину, захватывая вот этот обломочный материал, и все это выносится в долину Аларча, а потом дальше.
Sergei's brother Pavel has been installing devices that could give residents a few extra moments to escape in the event of a disaster.
Вот в случае большой воды, значит, сигнал этот проходит через эти приборы и поступает на телефоны людей, которые будут оповещать отдыхающих об аварийной ситуации. Вот такие.
Glaciers are important for food and water security in Central Asia. And as Kyrgyzstan is already one of the poorest countries in the region, resources are particularly scarce. Researchers like Omarova hope that her government can introduce laws to help protect the country's glaciers before they come down from the mountains to their doorstep. Justin Wu and Rhys Ayres for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, let's take a look at Russia's biggest pet-friendly festival, which features a fashion parade of dog owners and their canine companions. I'm Betty Chen. Take care and see you next time.